This is the Volkswagen Golf R. For decades, the Golf R has been one of the most respected hot hatches on the road, combining everyday practicality with serious performance. With over 300 horsepower, all-wheel drive, and technology developed through generations of performance Golfs, it's really easy to see why so many people consider it the perfect daily driver. Fast enough to be exciting, practical enough for everyday life, and capable of competing with cars that cost significantly more. And with only 5,000 miles on the clock, this one should be no different.
Now this right here is our Golf R. Now whilst it may look like a great deal, it came with one very big and obvious catch, because as you can probably tell, it's crashed. Now we managed to buy this car for a lot less than anyone should be able to buy a brand new Golf R for. But once you'll see the damage, you'll understand exactly why. And the thing is, the story already started before the car even got here.
It started the day it was delivered. Going into it, we actually weren't too worried before the truck even arrived. We've been texting the driver and he told us that there shouldn't be any issues getting the car off the trailer. According to him, it rolled just fine, so we figured we'd have it unloaded in a couple of minutes and we'd be on our way. So I went up into the car, hooked up our scanner, turned the ignition on, and surprisingly, everything powered up without a problem. So when I scanned the car, it said that it only had 17 fault codes, which was kind of weird. Then I realized the car turned back off again because the battery was so low and all the other modules turned off. So I turned it on and immediately scanned it whilst it was still on, and we came out to 73 fault codes, which was a little bit more believable. And we were looking for one exact fault code, and we also found it and tried deleting it, but it was still active and wouldn't come out, which is the crash shutoff, pretty much acting like a power fuse and telling the car not to turn on. And the way a power fuse works is when the car is in a crash and it detects it with its crash sensors, the ECU sends a signal to the power fuse telling it to cut the power to the car to prevent any further damages or injuries. But now after clearing a few codes and looking through the modules, I was actually able to put the car into neutral, and even better, the electronic parking brake released. And at this point, we thought we had the problem completely solved.
Now a little bit of a stressful situation, but we got everything sorted out and should now be able to load it off, because we just tried it off as you saw, and we are able to get it into neutral. It's currently in park and also has the parking brake engaged. We should be able to roll it off after we get the car behind us off. Yeah, let's do that and get the first issue solved of getting this off of the trailer.
This car has to come off first to make some room, and maybe an older car like this is a little bit more simpler than a brand new one with a lot of tech. Now, once again, thinking that we were done and can finally go home, we ran into another problem. The car wouldn't move at all. It'd go into neutral but wouldn't let us release a parking brake. You can see the car jolt a little bit because we could release it, but as soon as it rolls, it throws it back in.
So it's not really going to plan as of right now, because we thought we could just put it in neutral and let it roll down. But every time it moves a couple of inches back, for safety reasons, it just puts itself into a park, and then the handbrake on as well. So I think now we need to go to the neutral override, which sits in the center console somewhere, and pull that so that the car is permanently in neutral, and then we should be able to get it off. That's going to be the next thing which we're going to be trying.
So the last thing we're going to try is to open the hood and look at the battery and maybe find a power fuse, which we then found out that this car doesn't even have a physical one. Now the last thing we can do is manually release the parking brakes. Right now the pistons are pushed together and holding the car. If we remove the plug and hold the 12 volts to it, we can technically release them. We gave it a shot, 12 volts onto it, and the pistons retracted and released. And this will now let the car move freely. We had to do the same thing on the other side, and the car now was finally free to leave. We loosened the straps and tried rolling it down, which weirdly enough didn't work, so we were scared it could be something way worse. But we found out it was just a tie down behind the wheel blocking it this time. And then we actually got it off the trailer, and it was finally free and ready to be brought home.
So now that we finally got the Golf R here, it's time to take a proper look at what we actually bought. We're gonna go over all the damages, find out what needs to be repaired, and whether or not we'll even be able to bring this car back to life. And of course, at the end of the video, what everyone wants to know, how much we actually paid for this thing. So we're gonna start here in the rear and kind of work our way around the entire car. And first of all, this is a 2025 Volkswagen Golf R Black Edition, which is a little bit more special than a normal Golf R. It gives you a lot of different features, and it's exactly what it stands for, the Black Edition. It blacks out a lot of different things. It blacks out little details in the headlight. It blacks out the Volkswagen badge. It blacks out the R badge. It gives you black quad exhaust tips, which look really, really nice on this car. Then it also gives you the black badge on the door as well. Blacks out different pieces on the grille in the front, and also gives you black brake calipers with the R logo on it. But probably my favorite feature of it being a Black Edition is on the interior. And what we've always liked about Volkswagen, and especially on the Golf, is that just the proportions of everything just look completely right. And I don't know what Volkswagen did when they created the car and also other cars, but especially the Golf. It just looks completely right. And also in the rear, since we're here, it looks super aggressive, especially from this angle of it being very, very wide in the back. Not like our RS3, which is very, very slim in the back and wide in the front, which I'm not a huge fan of, which Audi could have maybe worked on a little bit differently. But I just have to say Volkswagen did a very, very nice job. But this car is going to be super sick once it's back on the road. And also going back to the Audi, I'm not saying it's a bad car and that we were completely disappointed at it. We're still very in love with the car, just the small details that might have been changed. But I love the way it drives because we finally were able to drive it, the way it sounds, and just in general how it's going to look at the end.
And if you're new here, this is the RS3 and it looks completely different now. We're so close to having it done and on the road for good. We got it driving finally and it sounds and drives insane. The journey and the entire story on this car has been crazy. Make sure to check out the reboot series on that as well.
And now to what most people think is the biggest problem on the crash car, the balloon party inside. And I still don't really know why, but every time people see an airbag deployed in the car, they think the car is just completely totaled. But for me, I think it's the easiest job on the car. And it's not just about it being an easy job of swapping them out and fixing it, because I'm not really the biggest fan of working on an interior with these plastic clips that they use nowadays, but it's because a lot of people actually don't know how the airbags actually work. But like I said, swapping out the airbags is not the biggest job in the world. It's just one complete component with one airbag plug. You plug the old one out, unbolt it, put the new one in, plug it back in, and then you already have a fresh airbag in the car. But now a little bit more on the interior of this car and the damages that it actually has. First and foremost, what I said about the black edition of what my favorite feature is this huge carbon fiber trim which goes along the entire dash and also on the doors. So first, all the airbags that were deployed in the car, the most obvious is always the steering wheel airbag. Then we have both of the curtain airbags, this side and also the one on the passenger side right here. Both the passenger side and the driver's side seatbelts are completely locked. And right now is also a great moment for you guys to show your appreciation for us and what we bring for you guys, so make sure to like and subscribe. And something that we still don't really understand why this car did it, and the same with our RS3, is that these rear seatbelts are also completely locked, both of them. Meaning that we have to take both of the rear ones out as well to either get new ones or reset them. And obviously this could also mean that there were people in the back that didn't use their seatbelts, but this exact same thing happened on our RS3 as well. So it's just some type of safety feature that the cars have. But we still haven't covered the biggest problem that the interior actually has, which is the dashboard. And this is then because there was a passenger in the car. That's also why the seatbelt is completely locked. Since it detected a passenger, the dashboard airbag also deployed. And with that, it's not just that you replace the airbag how you do on the other airbags, you have to replace the entire dashboard. And that's probably going to be a pretty fun job to strip the entire interior, to take the old dashboard out, put the new one in, but at least it's going to make the interior look brand new again. And now a little bit more to the front. The biggest piece on the front end of a car is the hood, and when people see a hood like this, they think the car is just completely ruined because it's completely squashed up like this. The hood is just a super thin metal, and it's also there to absorb impact, so you can't just look at that and say the car is completely totaled. You have to take a look at what's underneath. The most important part about a car is the structural integrity that it has, and looking at this car now, and also when we bought this car completely sight unseen, so we only saw the 13 pictures that Copart put up there. But just based off of that, we for us said that this car's structure was completely fine. And from those pictures, we saw that most of the damage was just above the entire crash bar. It just barely nicked the crash bar, but something that we couldn't see on the pictures is that this little piece, which sits on top of the entire chassis leg, got completely cut off and twirled together back there because there was probably a lot of heat in there, but it twirled completely together. But that has nothing to do with the structure, because that little piece which got completely eaten off in the crash is just on the outside wall of the chassis leg and just kind of extends a little bit. And like I said, has nothing to do with the structure, because the entire chassis leg has these spot welds right below it, which attaches the outside wall to the inner piece like this. And since it doesn't have anything to do with the structural purpose of this car, we could just cut it off, but then it would just look weird. And since we don't cut any corners on any build that we have ever done, we are going to bend it back, weld it together, paint it up, and you won't really tell that anything happened. Basically the same thing is up here as well. This piece has nothing to do with the structure itself. It bolts on right here, and it's super easy to swap out, and is also there again to absorb all the impact that comes from the front, because it's just a flimsy piece of metal. Then you're probably asking yourself why this car even got written off as a complete total loss when it doesn't even have any structural damage or pretty bad damages itself. Because we got pretty lucky with this headlight, because this one is still fully intact and has nothing wrong with it. The only thing, if you look at it back here, it looks like it's broken, but that's actually the bracket where it bolts onto. And all of this adds up for the insurance, and when insurance is just look at this, just adds up a lot of cost, and it's just way more efficient for them to write off the car. But let me tell you a little bit more about it.
And that's really how a lot of these cars end up being written off. From the insurance company's perspective, it's usually not worth spending the time to inspect every single part in the detail. They build an estimate using new OEM parts, dealership labor rates, paint, calibration, and everything else that's required to return the car to factory condition. Once you start adding up bumpers, body panels, sensors, labor, and all these little pieces that most people don't even think about, the repair bill climbs incredibly fast. And at that point, it's often most cost effective and much quicker for the insurance company to total the car instead of repairing it, even if the actual damage isn't as severe as the estimate might suggest.
Now let's take a look what's actually underneath this hood. For anyone that doesn't know, this is a inline 4 with a turbo on it, and sounds pretty nice, but nowadays with all of these regulations that we have, they are super quiet. But this is an engine that has a lot of potential in all directions. But now to damage underneath the hood, this is going to be stuff in the future once we take everything off, to really inspect everything, make sure that everything is fine, because even stuff like this down here that kind of got nicked, we need to take a look at. And something that's super important is wires, because they can have the tiniest bite in it and you'll just be looking hours on end trying to find a problem, even though it's just the smallest wire cut. But one main damage that we could already see underneath the hood is that what we believe is a fuel line, which I'm pretty sure about. This line is completely cut right here, and that is because the hood got squashed down and also cut the line. But the thing is, with this car, it cranks, but it doesn't run, obviously because the fuel line is cut. But there's also one other problem with these modern cars.
As you guys saw, one of the first things we did was look for a main power fuse, thinking it might be something simple, but after searching for quite a while, we couldn't find one. The reason for that is, like, unlike older cars, a lot of these newer vehicles don't just rely on a traditional fuse or relays anymore. They have built-in safety systems that can detect when the car has been in an accident. If that happens, the car can shut down certain systems or prevent it from starting until the crash event is cleared with the proper diagnostic equipment. So instead of just replacing a simple blown fuse and getting it back on the road, we also had to consider whether the car itself was intentionally keeping certain systems disabled. It's one of the biggest differences with modern cars. Sometimes the issue isn't a broken part, it's the software, and figuring that out can take just as much time as fixing the car itself.
Another thing about the front end is that it has two crash sensors. One sits on the left and one sits on the right, and that is what tells the car that there was an impact and then deploys the airbags. And these crash sensors sit in the front right here, pretty much underneath the hood hinges, and that's exactly why the airbags deployed, because these also measure the speed at which this impact happened. So pretty much if the entire impact happened on the front, the entire crash bar would take a lot of impact, and then the impact on the crash sensor would be a little bit slower. And since the crash bar took up no energy at all, everything went straight into the crash sensor, and the crash sensor thought it was in a huge accident, and that's why pretty much all the airbags in the car are deployed. But overall, this car is going to be a huge journey to get it back on the road and complete it again, but it's definitely going to be a fun journey. And now to what everyone wants to know, the cost of what we actually paid for this car. We paid only $16,000, and I'm using the word only because of what we got for this entire thing, a 2025 Volkswagen Golf R Black Edition with only 5,700 miles, which is pretty insane. So I think this was a steal, but that's something we need to figure out once we start tearing stuff apart and see what the actual damage of this car is. Let me know in the comments down below of what you think of this car, and would you have bought this car yourself? Make sure to also check out my other rebuilds. We're currently rebuilding my RS3, which is getting painted as we speak right now. But the overall journey on the RS3 has been pretty insane, and then you guys also see how we do our videos, because we do them pretty in-depth as well. Here's where we're gonna wrap up this week's video. I can't wait to finally get started on this car and start tearing it apart to find out what's actually wrong with this car. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to check out my other platforms as well. They're gonna be linked in the description down below. Make sure to like and subscribe and turn on the post notification. Drive safe and stay tuned.